Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Leadership in Action Market Stall to Millions Dream or Reality digital event, hosted by the CMI Wales Board. My name is Mel, and I'm an event delivery coordinator at CMI, and I'll shortly be handing over to Dave to begin today's event. If you have any questions during the digital event, you can ask them using the live chat box on the right of your screen, and we shall answer as many as we can during the Q&A. Today's session is being recorded, and it will be shared later on today for those who have booked to attend. The event recording will also be available on the CMI website and CMI YouTube channel. Now over to Dave Bolton, Deputy Chair of the CMI Wales Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. That was great. Thank you for the welcome. Hello, everybody, and welcome to CMI Wales Cymru Fireside Chat. My name is David Bolton. I'm Deputy Chair of CMI Cymru, and in my day job, I'm undergraduate program director for the business management degree programs at Swansea University. My area of expertise and research interest is in entrepreneurship and innovation. And from that perspective, I'm really lucky to be joined today by another one of our board members, Catherine Parry-Jones, who is CMI Wales's diversity and inclusion lead, and also a successful entrepreneur in the regional and rural market of West Wales. I think that most people have dreamed of leaving the rat race behind and setting up their own business. COVID has obviously increased the number of us taking the plunge to live life and work in a more entrepreneurial way. Catherine is going to provide us with her candid experience as one such entrepreneur who recently took the leap and within a couple of years expanded from a market stall to operating Crust, an established and much loved multi-site brand employing now nearly 50 people. However, it's not easy and most micro businesses fail to scale. So during this session, what we want to have a look at and explore is the leadership challenges of growth with first-hand stories of the trials and tribulations of making that shift and being in control to delivering through others. We hope that this session will provide you, our audience, with an honest account of the reality at the coalface of starting up and managing a small business with top leadership tips for anyone with a dream to make a reality. So, Catherine, welcome.
Hello, Dave. Well, thank you very much for that lovely introduction.
It's really nice to be able to sit down and talk to you, because you're obviously fairly new to the board, and we haven't actually met face to face yet, which is quite crazy when you think about it. So the opportunity to run through a couple of questions with you and have a chat is really great.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's strange, isn't it, that we haven't met face to face yet, considering how long. Well, I've not been on the board that long, but as in, it's just strange in this day and age how it's all kind of digital at the moment. But I feel like I know you quite well by now. Yeah, but it's through all these kind of, online Zoom meetings, and no, it's been great.
Yeah, and things have certainly changed from a business perspective, which I'm sure you'll drop into the conversation that we're about to have. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm 28 years old. I grew up in a little coastal village in West Wales, just outside Cardigan and Cardiff on a farm. So I'm a farmer's daughter, and kind of growing up, I guess my mum kind of always pushed me into having part-time jobs, and it always ended up in kind of retail and hospitality. kind of sector that I used to do all my part-time jobs. So I guess my experience kind of really starts from there within the kind of industry that I'm in now. And that's kind of where it all started, really, because I used to really enjoy it. I used to love kind of working in hospitality. But what I kind of clicked on to kind of very early on is kind of maybe how society kind of tends to look at hospitality workers. And it's kind of looked at as a kind of low skilled career, which kind of baffled me, because I think you need a lot of skills to kind of have a successful career in the kind of hospitality industry or retail. So I kind of early on, I kind of realized that, you know, the way people are treated in this industry, I kind of wanted to change that. And I wanted to always start my own business. It's something I've always wanted to do, just from my experience. Kind of, I used to work in a beach shop every summer and every Easter in Tressaith. And I used to love it. So kind of scooping ice cream, serving coffees, you know, changing the shop display and selling the wetsuits and all that kind of stuff. And I always used to think, oh, I'd love to kind of own my own shop like this. So it's kind of always been in the back of my mind that I want to do it. And I guess it's kind of just been a dream that's kind of grown from since I was a teenager, really. But that's kind of where my experience started with the kind of hospitality industry. And that's kind of how I've got into it myself.
Okay, that's great. That's really interesting. I think you know, I want to explore some of those experiences a little bit more with you, really. You know, so what specific experiences you've mentioned about farmer's daughter? You've mentioned about you know, working the part-time jobs and the hospitality and so on. But what if you could you know, place a specific experience on what has led you to become a successful entrepreneur today? What would you think that would be?
I'm going to say it probably was when I lived in Cardiff, when I was so I just finished university. I went to university, Cardiff University, and I did a degree in the Welsh language. So Welsh language is my first language, and we're from a very kind of Welsh language community here in West Wales. So that's kind of what I want to do in university. And then when I finished, so my partner Osian, who is also my business partner as well with Crust, he's a chef. And we're kind of both massive foodies, and we always used to kind of go to cafes and restaurants on anytime we had time together or our days off, and we used to sit there and we used to think, oh, we'd love to kind of own our own cafe one day. And then I remember, so I think I was about 21, 22 at the time, and we both just moved to Cardiff together. That's kind of the norm. Lots of people, young people, do that from this kind of rural areas. They kind of venture out to the cities and sometimes start their life there and then stay there forever and settle down. But lots of people also come home, and obviously we were that couple that came home. But when we first moved to Cardiff, Osian got a job in this 5-star boutique hotel on Cathedral Road just as they were opening. And it was really difficult kind of setting it up, because Osian was quite young himself. Although he'd kind of worked as a chef, he was kind of in charge of setting up the kind of food side of things. But obviously they'd built like the kitchen and everything already. So when he got there, it kind of wasn't the right setup, and the kitchen was absolutely tiny, tiny, tiny. And that's kind of something that I think people tend to do. They always kind of compromise on the kitchen and think, oh, we make more space for seating and more space for, you know, rooms and things like that. And then the kitchen can be really like small in these places. So it was such a challenge to get things set up. And I didn't have a job at the time. I was still kind of applying for jobs and things straight after university. So in the meantime, I just want to help Osian do that. And it was really hard, because I'm sure the people on here know kind of what the kind of world of chefing is like. But I remember Osian, I think he worked something like 34 days in a row. And he'd start at like kind of 6:30 in the morning to do the breakfast, and then he'd be there doing the lunch and the supper as well. And he was the only chef. He was the only person there. So I was like his little helper in the end, because I could see he was like losing weight and he was getting really ill. And then and I remember being like, oh, I'll just come and help you, and, you know, I'll do the dishes, because he would do the dishes. He would literally everything. And I was like, I'll come and help. And I remember we would both be there, and it was kind of exciting as well, because it was kind of setting up this new hotel. And I remember thinking, oh, we just want to do this for ourselves, and we know that we could do it better. And a huge passion of mine is kind of people and providing kind of fulfilling careers for people within the hospitality industry. So there was kind of two ethoses, I guess, when it came to what we wanted to do when we kind of finally set up our business. And there was kind of one side of wanting to provide that amazing experience for customers, bring something different to rural West Wales, something a bit more urban, something modern. And then there was the other side for me, something I'm passionate about, is kind of providing careers for people within the industry that are fulfilling, good work-life balance, you know, all the kind of things that don't normally typically come with a kind of career in hospitality, and kind of a clear path for growth. So I've kind of lots of learning during our kind of first year of Crust, but I guess the experience of having that experience in Cardiff when we helped with opening that hotel was definitely something that's kind of made us, I think, the kind of leaders we are today when it comes to managing our team and our ethos and culture in Crust.
That's great. Thank you for that, Catherine. So my next question really leads on from that. I mean, we all know how difficult it is in the early stages to actually set up a business and drive it forward, let alone grow it. But when did you know that setting up a business for yourself was the right choice for you? Can you pinpoint a time when you thought, yeah, this is great, this is what I want to do?
Well, I don't think there was ever a moment it was like, aha, this is exactly what I want to do. For me, it was definitely more of like a slow kind of growth. So I'm like love being organized and planning things. So when we would like living in Cardiff, even before then and even after, like we always kind of go to cafes and restaurants, and we love doing research. It's almost like a hobby of ours, like going to a cafe and trying out the coffee, the teas, the cakes, all that kind of stuff is something we're really, really passionate about. And then it kind of all started with like just like a little notebook I bought. I remember, I think I bought it from Paper Chase in Cardiff when I was a student there. And then we'd go to cafes and we'd just jot down little ideas, and we'd be like, oh, like if we had somewhere, I think we could do it like this, or we could do that a little bit better, or we love what the ethos here, this is the kind of culture we would have. So we didn't really, at the very beginning, we didn't have a actual kind of structural plan in place. It's built from the passion and from the kind of ethos and culture that we hope to create one day. So I guess we started with that. We kind of started with the brand values and kind of built from there. And then it started to get a little bit more serious when we kind of looked into startup business courses. So we started attending these startup courses in Cardigan. I think it was run by Business Wales. And so at the time we lived in Cardiff, so we used to travel from Cardiff back to Cardigan. I think it was like once a month or something. There was different modules for startup businesses. And that was a huge help, because that almost put our ideas and what we had in mind into a bit more of a plan. So I kind of wrote a business plan, a marketing plan, a financial plan, a financial forecast, everything that they were recommending in these courses, I was just doing in my spare time and on weekends. And then that's kind of when it all kind of came together a little bit more. And I remember like, Oshan would come home from work and I'd be like, oh, I've put this on the business plan. What do you think of this? And then he was getting a bit more excited, thinking, okay, we think that this is something that we could actually start. So we tried to look for kind of cafes to start, or restaurants and delis and things like that, but we couldn't find any suitable premises that would kind of work for us. So we knew we had to start somewhere, and we thought, right, we're just going to have to just take the plunge and just start doing something. And that's when Oshan started getting really passionate about bakery things. So like sourdough, homemade bread and pastries and donuts, which is something that's a real staple of Crusts now. But so that's when he started looking, kind of getting into all that kind of stuff. And I remember because he then finished at the hotel and went to work at a cafe. And then he had a bit more kind of free reign then. He would make his homemade breaded sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. And he really got into sourdough, and he was just obsessed. And literally in the morning before going to work, he'd be doing something with his sourdough culture, and then getting back from work, he'd be making his sourdough. And I'd be like getting home from work, there'd be parcels of books and books all about sourdough. So so that's kind of how that started, I guess. And then we took the plunge in 2016, because any football fans out there might know that 2016 is when Wales qualified for the Euros. And Osian is a massive Welsh football fan, and he has been ever since he was a little boy. And he was like, we have to kind of follow the campaign around France. And we thought, okay, this is the opportunity we have to pack in our jobs in Cardiff, follow the football team around France for 6 weeks, and then head home and just start somewhere. Because I remember it was probably a good year or something of looking for cafes and spaces that we just weren't quite suited for us. And we just thought we had to kind of take the plunge and start working from home. And that's when we started baking from home, our sourdoughs and pastries and things like that. And that's when we started attending the market stalls and food festivals and supplying local shops and just building our brand from there, really.
That is really, it's really interesting, and I'm starting to feel a bit hungry actually, Catherine, with the talk of all this sourdough and stuff and cakes and whatever. But one thing I just wanted to pick up on there was the fact that you were kind of treating it a little bit at the start like a little bit of a game, I suppose. With your little notebook going around and imagining what you do and what you do differently and what was good about something. So do you think that was really a formative experience for you to be where you are today? Would you kind of pinpoint that as the real start of it?
Oh, definitely. I would think so. And I think it kind of shows that it has started from a place of kind of passion or something we really love. It's not something that we thought, oh, we want to start a business. What should we start it in? It's more like, oh, we want to be able to provide something as amazing as this cafe in this city back where we live for the people in our community in like a rural area, and just bring something a bit different that they can enjoy and kind of prove to people you don't need to move away, because we're going to bring something a bit kind of different and a bit modern to a kind of rural town as well, so that you can enjoy the kind of benefits of like urban life but in Cardigan. And we wanted to create that culture of being able to enjoy a cup of coffee and a really good cake with your family or friends over a catch up, and just that kind of vibe that you'd get in a city, for example, with these kind of coffee shops. So yeah, it definitely came from a kind of a place of passion and something we loved, and just taking around the notebook and jotting down little ideas was just something that we kind of started because we'd always talk about it. Every time we were in cafes, we would chat and be like, oh, I love this, oh, I love that, or did you see that cake, or oh, I would do this a bit different, and that would just make it amazing. And then we were like, we need to start writing down these ideas so we don't forget. So I think that's just something that kind of happened. But yeah, I guess I would recommend it because it was really handy when it came to actually writing a solid business plan. That is what I referred to for our kind of ethos and the culture we wanted to create when it came down to it.
Oh, that's great. So I want to just pick up on something that you were speaking about there as well with the next question, particularly around the rural elements of the business that you're running at the moment. So most people, if you're from Wales audience, then you'll know there's a massive difference between Cardigan and Cardiff. But if we've got people that aren't from Wales or not aware of Wales in terms of geography, can you just describe the differences, Catherine, between Cardiff and Cardigan, and really try and focus on the challenges that you face getting where you are today in that rural market?
Yeah, so I guess a huge difference straight away is just the population. So in Cardiff, it's such a busy place, and living there and working there, it was very, kind of, I guess the word is kind of busy. It was quite corporate, and especially with kind of what I was doing, and it was just lots going on all the time. And you would quite often maybe meet people in a cafe and a restaurant to have a meeting, or, you know, that kind of thing. And then in Cardigan, it's way more slow paced. It's way more rural. There's quite a big farming community. There's a big kind of coastal community, if that's even a thing, but as in, you know, that we've got the beaches and the surfing and the walking. So it is very rural, and it is completely different in kind of lifestyle and kind of way of life a little bit as well. But I guess one of the challenges that we've faced is kind of staffing. It's really difficult to kind of staff a growing business where, like, now we've got nearly 50 people on the payroll, and to kind of get to that has been quite a challenge, I've got to say. So when you, for example, if you put out a job application, you sometimes get no applications, or you might get one. So you don't necessarily have a choice of 10, 20, 30 applications and looking through them for the people that are more suited for the role with their experiences. It's more to do with, right, we've had 1 or 2 applications. You've got to give those people a chance, whether or not they might even not have any experience in what you're looking for. So that's been really difficult. And that's kind of where I kind of really quickly learned how important kind of management and leadership and training is when it comes to kind of growing and starting a business in a rural area like Cardigan. So that was definitely a huge challenge for us, and it kind of continues to be, the staffing, and even more so after COVID. So you can imagine how that was. If it was already quite scarce, it was even worse after the pandemic, trying to kind of staff places. And it's after the pandemic that we've actually grown in a lot of areas in the business. So, for example, we've just moved our bakery to a whole new production unit, and we actually have a second kitchen within that production unit, especially for our production line. So we kind of jar up a lot of the things we make in the cafes, like our salted caramels, chocolate spread, and our baking kits and things like that. And we sell them wholesale to retailers across the UK at the moment. And we do also sell them directly to customers from our online shop. So that grew with kind of COVID, with all the lockdowns, and we kind of established ourselves in that market then. So we've had to kind of grow that side of the business quite quickly to be able to fulfill these orders. So that, for example, it's been quite difficult staffing that straight after the pandemic, when things started opening up again.
So yeah, I can imagine this. I think this goes back to a little bit about what you were talking about earlier, where you and Oshan went to the bright lights of the big city. There's quite a lot, I suppose, of people within Cardigan that get to that certain age and do the same thing, which leaves a kind of hole, really, I suppose, in the population.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely does. And I guess that we're never gonna massively change that by opening a nice cafe in Cardigan, but it was just something we wanted to do. And when we get the opportunity, we just want to kind of get the word out there that we can kind of provide really fulfilling careers for people within the rural industry. And I feel like if more employers and business owners kind of went down the route of fair employment, good paying employment, then we might get people sticking around a little bit more. Especially in the rural area when it comes to just work-life balance, because people here want to enjoy the country, they want to enjoy the beach and their life outside of work. And I think that can definitely be provided. But I've got to say, though, it's not like flipping a switch. You can't just say, I'm going to be a fair, well-paying employer like that. It takes so much time and effort to be that employer and to be that kind of leader as well. It's a lot of effort to train someone and invest your time into someone who might not be invested in the business or might turn around after a few weeks and leave. And it's really difficult to kind of keep up that ethos and culture within the business. But it is something that's important to us, and we do it from the get-go. When people join us, even from the interviewing stage, we always kind of tell them what our values are, what we're trying to achieve. And then, so it's what I'm trying to say. It is a lot of effort, and it is a challenge, definitely, to be that kind of employer. And I think it's important that if you're kind of looking to start your own business, that you know that is going to take up most of your time, kind of leadership and management for the people, especially if you're growing your business and getting a lot of people on board.
No, that's true. I think we're starting to move towards some of the challenges that you faced over the last 6 years, and I personally didn't realise you've been going for such a short period of time, because the growth has been meteoric from that perspective, really, when you think about it. But has there ever been a time when you felt that it wasn't going to work, or it wasn't worth it?
To be honest, there's not been a time where I thought it's not going to work. Maybe Oshan more than me, because we're both quite different. So I've got a bit of kind of like a growth mindset, and I'm always thinking, oh, whatever happens, we'll make it work. We have to. That's kind of how I feel about stuff. And I don't know if we've just been lucky, but it kind of always has worked out for us with kind of what we decide to do. But I think it's because we do work really hard, and we do think, right, so for example, with the pandemic, we were like, okay, our cafes are closed. What are we going to do? We have to do something. So that's when we kind of thought, right, we're going to have to, everything's kind of going online. Let's just push the online side of things and our online shop and get our name out there for our production line, and go wholesale as well, and start supplying kind of retailers and wherever we can. So I've never thought it's not going to work, because I've always told myself I'll make it work whatever happens. It was the same when we first started. My mum was really against us doing it, and she was like, you can't be packing your jobs in Cardiff and moving home to start making sourdough from your house. Are you serious? And it was just like, no, we'll make it work. You just got to trust us. Like, as in, I just know that we'll make it work whatever happens, because it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of passion, and we're trying to build something special for both customers and our employees as well. And we'll just make sure it works. But there's definitely 100% been times where I thought this is not worth it, just because the kind of like stress that comes with it, you're kind of on call 24/7. I do think that being a business owner is a little bit romanticized by some people, and I think that people kind of tend to sugarcoat it a little bit, because it's not what it's made out to be. I think sometimes on social media or LinkedIn and things like that, people think, oh, I'd love to own my own business, look at that. And it's really a big challenge, and I think it depends what culture you're trying to create within your workplace. And because we're all about providing these fulfilling careers and growth for people, that is so time consuming, and it takes a lot of time to invest into that, as well as trying to like be innovative with your actual business side of things, and doing what you're passionate about with the food and the drink and everything like that. So I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely been times when I thought, oh, this doesn't feel like it's worth it, especially if you're working hard all day trying to coordinate all these different things. Then you get home, and then it pops up a review of someone giving you a 1-star review because they had to wait in the queue for 7 minutes, and you're just thinking, oh God, like, are we doing this right?
No, I know exactly what you mean, and one thing you mentioned there is, which is key, is the mindset. Having that entrepreneurial mindset is research has proved that it's really, really important. That you've got to believe in what you do, and what our family think about what we're doing is neither here nor there from that perspective. I mean, we've had quite an interesting comment made here, Catherine, as well, by someone from World Expos around about the franchise model. And the question basically is, was franchising something that you considered as a franchisee? So in other words, buying into a franchise, was it something that you consciously thought about, or avoided?
I didn't consciously we haven't consciously thought about it at all. We've had people say like, oh, you should franchise, but it's not really something that we're like interested in doing, I guess, because we have our own way of kind of wanting to develop the business and the culture we're trying to create there. So we're kind of just sticking with that for now and doing it at our own pace, and kind of what works, we'll kind of keep leading in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, from the other side of the coin, did you ever consider buying into a franchise to start the business?
Yeah, no, we didn't. That didn't cross our minds at all. I think just because we wanted to create our own our own thing and completely our own thing. We didn't want anyone. That's, I guess, one of the benefits of kind of having your own business. You can do things your way and how you want to do them. And that was something that obviously we were passionate about, and the whole reason that we wanted to start Crust was to do things our way. After, like I said, after seeing things in other cafes and ideas and thinking, I think we could do this better this way, or that was the whole reason, really. So no, that it wasn't really a conscious decision, like not to, but we never thought of doing it. I guess it didn't really cross our minds.
No, that's great. And World Expos has actually posted another question as well, which tags onto this, because we've been talking about the the challenges that you've faced, which have kind of shaped the way that you've driven the business forward. And the question basically asks, it's obviously required significant investment to get to where you are today. So where did that investment come from? Of local banks and institutions being supportive? Have you thought about crowdfunding, for instance?
We did think about crowdfunding, but what we went down the line of, and we got funding from the Development Bank of Wales. So without them, literally nothing would have been possible, because that's where we got our funding for to kind of renovate our first cafe. It's where we've got the funding to renovate Poppet Cafe, the second cafe, and even the new bakery and production unit. So that's kind of how we've funded everything, as well as kind of from the business as well. But that's the majority of the kind of renovation work has come from a loan from the Development Bank of Wales.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Catherine. So next question I've got for you is, think about the last 6 years that you've been doing this. What memory sticks out to you as the defining moment of your entrepreneurial journey?
So this is quite a hard one, because I've got quite a few memories. So there's definitely a memory when we won the Rural Business of the Year award, the UK one. That was back in 2019. Because that was kind of just it was like a year and a half or something after we opened Crust and Cardigan. And it was just, it just felt really nice to be kind of recognised just for the growth from, I guess, kind of the market stall days to opening a cafe and employing, I think it was maybe 15 to 20 people at that time. So I remember feeling quite emotional when they kind of read out our name at the ceremony, that we were the winners of that one. So that was definitely a moment. I remember me and Oshan kind of looking at each other and thinking, oh God, we've actually done something here, like we've achieved something here. Because it's really like, sometimes you get lost in the day-to-day hecticness of kind of running a business, and you kind of forget to take a step back and just look at what you've achieved and what you've done, and just kind of be proud of it. Because I guess it's a bit, like people say, you need to just live in the moment and live in the present a bit more, because you're just always focusing on what's next, what's happening today. What do I need to do today? What's on the to-do list? And then sometimes you're living in the moment that you wanted, and you just need to kind of step back and think, oh, this is literally what we were trying to achieve, and we've done it. It's happening, and it's working, and we're growing. It's even bigger than what we ever dreamed it would be. And I guess another moment, this is a bit of a soppy one, but it's true. So every Christmas we host like a Christmas quiz for the team, and it's just kind of a time for everyone to get together. And I love hosting quizzes; it's like my thing, and I love Christmas as well. So we host a kind of team quiz every Christmas, and I remember just kind of like having the questions, and I was like reading them out, and I just remember looking out, and we hosted it in the cafe, and it was just so festive and all the lights everywhere, and I just looked at the team, and everyone was just so happy, and I just thought, oh, this is literally what I wanted. I wanted to create a kind of jobs for people where they're really enjoying it and where they're getting on with their team, and it's just a nice culture to work in. And I just kind of looked down, and I remember just feeling, oh, this is literally what I wanted to do with the team, and it's kind of happening, and everyone was just kind of enjoying themselves, and it was just a nice moment.
So that's a really interesting point, actually, because it's not as if you've really just created the business, but you've created kind of like a culture, like a family there as well at the same time. Would you say that's the case?
Oh, definitely. I just, I'm not too much about like, people call it the Crust family when I work there, but I wouldn't want the kind of staff to think they've got to do everything crust, everything in crust, buy everything crust. I just want them to feel happy when they're working and to enjoy their job while they're working. And then if they want to come and do the extra bits like the Christmas quiz and stuff, then that's completely their choice and they're never forced to. But it was just nice to see that kind of everyone turned up and they were enjoying it. And I thought, oh, we must be doing quite a good job then if everyone's here and having a nice time.
Okay, that's great. So we come on to my final question really in this, which is what 3 pieces of advice would you give to anyone thinking about starting a business or indeed growing an existing business?
Okay, so number 1, I would say for people who are wanting to start a business, it's not what you think it's going to be. This might be a bit of a controversial point, but it's not all you think it's going to be. I feel like people tend to sugarcoat owning your own business. It's really hard work. You've got to invest a lot of your time into it. Like for the last kind of 5 years, I'm 28, I'm kind of in my mid-20s. I haven't done a lot of things that maybe a typical mid-20 person would do. I've not been on a lot of holidays, or we don't own a house yet, for example. We're still renting because all of our time is focused on the business and making sure that it can grow and kind of go in the direction that we want it to go. So I feel like, and it's not fair either. So if you think that it's life and it's going to be all fair and happy and I'm a business owner, this is amazing. It's really hard. It takes a lot of investing your time and your money, and but if you're ready for it, it is so worth it as well. So I think number 1 advice, if you're a bit unsure whether you want to do it or not, then really think about it, because you don't want to invest your time into something that can sometimes be quite stressful and time consuming, and it's not kind of something you're really passionate about, basically. Number 2, I've got here to be ready to have difficult conversations with your team, because that is something that I really struggled with right at the beginning, because I thought, I can get on with people. I'm a happy person. I can chat away. As you can probably tell, I talk loads. And I thought, I'll be fine with people. But when it came down to having to have difficult conversations or giving difficult feedback, especially to people that might not be very receptive to that became something that I really had to learn quite quickly as a leader, to have those difficult conversations. And it's really important that you do. Like, don't avoid. I used to kind of avoid having those conversations in the first few months, and then standards started slipping. Things weren't getting done the way that kind of me and Oshan wanted them to. And then that's when I kind of soon realized, I've really got to start having conversations and sitting people down and kind of having, a word or a conversation with someone that isn't, and that's not easy to do, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And something I kind of learn is, if you get, so for example, we had like a crew of like original kind of team of people. We've still got some of those originals. And I find it harder to have those difficult conversations with them than I do with the new kind of people that have come on board, because the new people that have come on board have kind of implemented that culture straight away, that they expect for me to be honest with them all the time, that I will have conversations with them, that I will give them feedback that's not necessarily good all the time. So it's been much easier to kind of implement that culture with them. But with the kind of original team, it's harder to have those conversations, because we didn't start out like that. And we definitely started out by being more of like, we're in this together, we're starting this business, we're all a team together here. So all I'm trying to say is it's really important to have those difficult conversations with people to make sure that things run smoothly in the way that you need them to. And then number 3, I would say identify your brand values early on. So whatever you're all about, just identify those values and always build on that. So anytime you want to make a decision and you're not quite sure what to do, I just always go back to, what are we all about? What are our values? What are we passionate about? And then go from there. Use them to make your decisions.
Okay, that's great. And there's some questions that have come in, which really tag on to the back end of this, Katrin. So we've got a question from Yashpal here, which asks, what are the basic things that need to be considered before starting a business or being starting that entrepreneurial journey?
So just the basics for me was our culture and what we were trying to create, because without that, I think it's really difficult to kind of build on. So for me, the basics is identifying your brand and your culture, what you're all about. and then planning. So I'm a massive planner and I love planning things. And I had a business plan, a marketing plan, and a financial plan. And the financial side is really important. It's not the fun bit. I quite enjoy it because it's quite, I quite like, so for example, I've always got a financial forecast, even now, so that I can see ahead of where we're going and where we're at and whether we're sticking to it or not. And I think it's really important that that's kind of done straight away and from the get-go. So definitely identifying your brand and your values and the culture you're trying to create, planning everything, and having a financial plan as well.
Okay, that's great. I'm just going to carry on. For Yashpal actually sent another one in about being brave. So
Yes.
what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is being brave something that you would consider being part of the entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, 100%, definitely. So, and it can come into all different kind of factors, really. So there's being brave about just taking the plunge and taking a risk to start your business. There's being brave when it comes to having those kind of conversations, those difficult conversations with your team. There's being brave when it comes to being vulnerable. I feel like sometimes we can all be feel like we're in a really vulnerable situation, and that you think that everyone's kind of looking up to you for an answer because you're the leader, and you might not always have it, and you might not always 100% know what to do next or the next step to take. But it's really important to be vulnerable, and that your staff can kind of see that as well, because they're going to obviously have moments like that. And if they're seeing that you're kind of encouraging, it's fine to just say what you think, we're in this together. And I think vulnerability is really important when it comes to that, and brave comes into that, I think, because lots of leaders and business owners kind of try and shove that to the back and always have this strong kind of confident face. And I think it's really important to show, no, we're all human, and we all have kind of moments where we're not quite sure what to do next or what the decision should be. And then I think it's really brave to be able to show that.
I totally agree with you, and I think it's down to fear of failure. A lot of the time, people fear failure rather than looking at it as a something that's positive that they can reflect and learn about.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's really important.
Okay, there are questions coming in, so keep the questions coming in. But I'm going to go to some of the questions that were sent in before the event. So we've got a question. Some of these are quite similar, Katrin, but I'm going to pick on a couple of these questions. So the first one is from Kath, and she asks, Katrin, as you grow your business, what management skills do you need to take it to the next stage? It's a really, really good question.
So for me, it was about letting go of control and kind of empowering your team to kind of make decisions. So what we did is we kind of broke down our teams to have kind of managers in different departments. And then I think it's really important to be able to empower and encourage those managers to be able to do things like decision making. Without having to come to you with every single thing, because as your business grows, there's going to be lots of different streams of income and different things happening on a daily basis. And you need kind of confident managers in those areas to be able to make decisions and feel empowered that they can without us kind of micromanaging every single move that they do. And that was really difficult because both me and Oshan are huge perfectionists. So it's about kind of letting go of that and letting other people take a bit more responsibility in their roles, and making them feel like they can. That's really important, and encourage them to.
Okay, that's great. So the next question is from Gary, and it kind of leads on really from part of what CMI their strategy are in terms of the accidental manager, and getting people to move away from being an accidental manager. Mm-hmm. But Gary asks, what advice would you give a small business wanting to grow? And this is the important part of the question. Should the business owner learn to lead as part of that growth?
Oh, 100%. I definitely think that they should learn to lead, because I think the growth of a business comes from how the leader leads that business. And I guess how they do that is, when you're starting a business, I would just kind of seek all the advice you can get, training, whether that's seeking advice from a mentor or webinars or courses, anything like that. Networking and learning, just constantly and continuously kind of improving and learning as a leader, I think is really important. And that's all the stuff that kind of you're really challenged with your time on, all that kind of stuff. But that's really important, because some people, I think, can just kind of shut all that stuff off, learning, kind of research, training, just to focus on the business itself, as in just getting, for us, it'd be like just getting the food out, the cakes out, the coffee out, and just keep doing that daily. But all the kind of things in the background, like the training and the learning, and the, seeking advice, and maybe even, getting a mentor, all that kind of stuff is so important. But that is what you will find most difficult to find the time for. But it's just so important that it gets done.
Okay, that's great. So we've got another question from Andrew along the lines of that as well. So Andrew's asking, how have you introduced operational standards into the business to maintain consistency without impacting the culture that you've built up, or the team ethos that you've built up?
Well, for us, this is quite a difficult question, because we kind of implement our standards right from the get-go. So even in the interviewing stage, we kind of put out there what we're all about, what our ethos is, what our values are. Because Crust, we have actual set values, and we kind of say them in the interview stage, and how important that is for us, and what we're trying to achieve with our customers. And then if they're successful in the job, they then have a kind of development plan then, which are in line with those values and standards. And another thing we do with standards as well is we have a standard for kind of each dish and each product and each kind of coffee, for example. So we'll have a kind of standards, whether that's in a picture. So for example, in the kitchen, we have pictures of every single dish and what they should look like before sending out. And then with the coffees, we have a standard for obviously how to make each coffee, and that you've got to stick to those standards. So yeah, it's really important to kind of implement that. And then through training, then that's kind of how you keep on top of that, because obviously standards do slip. And it's just about kind of overseeing the daily kind of operations and making sure that all those standards are stuck to. So we kind of give that responsibility as well to the managers of each department to just oversee things on a daily basis to make sure those standards are being stuck to. But standards is a huge part of what Crust is about. And if you asked any kind of anyone from the Crust team, they would always be, oh yeah, they bang on about standards all the time, standards and their values. It's something that's just kind of spoken about daily, throughout the working day.
Okay, that's lovely. Thanks, Catherine. So the next question we've got is around marketing, and this is from Iman. What's the best way to promote an online business from your perspective? Is it using Facebook ads or using influencers? What advice would you have?
So with Facebook ads, I feel like they're not that good, but what I found is that our regular posts that haven't been paid for, promoted for, generate just as much sales as the Facebook ads would. But what Facebook ads do is kind of get your brand out there a bit more. So it's quite hard to kind of see the direct benefits of a Facebook ad, because I don't think it generates direct sales for our online shop. But obviously it's good to get your brand seen in more places. So influencers, again, I think it's the same thing. I think that's really good in terms of kind of just brand awareness and getting your name out there. So what we found with kind of marketing is we've really built a kind of presence on social media. And I think it probably did help that we did it right from the beginning when we were at home, going to the markets and things like that. And I think people have really enjoyed being a part of the story, because they are a part of it, because without our customers, there wouldn't be Crust. So, all these people that would come to the market stall, they now come to Crust, and they bring their family and friends for brunch. And now they're going down to our cafe on the beach and enjoying a coffee there. And then they might now be seeing some of our products in kind of shops across Wales, and even some in kind of England and Scotland. So I think it's just, about developing a kind of story that the customers kind of enjoy watching.
Yeah, that's great. And Yashpal has put a question again in from the live chat here. He's asking how you actually stand out from the crowd. Millions of businesses in the world. How are you unique, and how do you overcome the competition? Good question.
Yeah, that's a hard question. I'm trying to think, really. I think it's a lot of it is to do with our social media. We did kind of start with that. That's how we got our name out there in the first place. Because when we first started in baking from home, obviously we didn't have funding, we didn't have a premises, we didn't have anything except for our brand. And then Oshan's brother, David, he kind of designed our logo for us, and it's kind of just taken us through the whole journey of starting from here. And it's kind of, and we've used the same logo, the same kind of ethos, culture and branding since the very beginning. So people can obviously follow that journey. And I think that kind of makes us stand out because people know our story and they're kind of involved in it. And I'm trying to think, how else do we kind of stand out? I think another thing that we do is obviously within the hospitality industry, because we're passionate about the kind of people and the team and the culture we're creating for them and the jobs and careers that we're creating for them. I think that also makes us stand out because the people that hopefully join the team kind of enjoy their work and kind of spread the word that way as well. And that does kind of stand out within the hospitality sector, to be honest, because a lot of hospitality businesses and things, they're not that passionate about their team and their culture. It's more to do with just standards and just, getting things out as quickly as possible and making as much money as possible, whereas our culture is completely different from that. So yeah, I think that's kind of answering the question. I hope it has.
Yeah, no, that's great, Catherine. So we've got two more questions that have come in via the live question. So, if there are any more questions, keep them coming. But these two are basically around the financial elements of the business and starting up. So Han has asked, what are the key elements that the Bank of Wales are looking for, the Development Bank of Wales are looking for when they were willing to extend the loan to a startup like yours?
It was quite a lot of work to kind of get them on board, to be honest. You've got to sell yourself to them and why, and kind of prove how you're going to be successful and why they should kind of fund your project. So I had to kind of give a business plan, a marketing plan, a financial plan. There was 3 years and a 5 year set of financial forecasts. We had lots of meetings with them. So I think it also helped kind of having those face-to-face meetings and they could meet you and get to know you and your business idea. And I think we did have to do a bit extra than usual because kind of cafe and restaurant startups are known to be a bit more of a risk than any other business. So we had to prove and provide even more information for them to be able to supply us with that loan.
Okay, that's great. And King So is asking about the profitability of the business. So, did your business make a profit after 1 year or even earlier? And how has business performance changed after the second year?
This is quite a hard question because I think year 2 was when the pandemic hit, so that was a bit of a different one. But we did make profit after year 1 because I love kind of my figures and the financial side of things, as I was saying earlier. So I find it really important. So we really did kind of stick to the forecast. And if anything, it was way more than what we'd anticipated. So again, going back to the Development Bank of Wales, that's always good for them as well, because you've got to, we had to give them monthly accounts. And for them, we were exceeding all of our targets every single month. And it was much busier than we expected, but we were very conservative with our figures. So that kind of probably helped as well. But no, we made profit after year 1, and then year 2, so year 1 is 2018 into 2019, and year 2 is 2019 into 2020. So no, year 2, I think, no, that wasn't in the pandemic. No, yeah, and we've made profit every year since we've started. So we're really, really happy with that. And then last year, obviously with the pandemic, it was a little bit different. But we kind of got through it with our online shop. So that's kind of how we survived that one.
Okay, there are no more online questions, but this is something that you've said there that I want to pick up on. This is a last question, Catherine. and also on the pandemic, and how your business has changed as part of that. And do you see benefits that have actually come out of the pandemic rather than difficulties?
Yeah, there's definitely been benefits. Obviously, lots of difficulties, which kind of people talk about all the time. But I guess the benefits from it was just the chance to really get our name out there on kind of the online side of things, with our online shop and what we could offer on there and kind of what people wanted. Obviously, it helped because everyone was at home and everyone was doing more online shopping, and we kind of tapped into that, and with our baking kits and the opportunity for people to send their loved ones some treats online. So that's kind of how we really took off in our online side of things. So that was a massive benefit, and that's how we've been able to open our new production unit and being able to kind of, get our brand out there a little bit more when it comes to kind of production line stuff, our products. So that's kind of been really successful on the back of COVID, to be honest.
Brilliant. That's great. So we've got no more questions, Catherine.
Okay.
I'm just looking at the clock now, and it's coming up to an hour. I don't know where an hour's gone. It's been really, really interesting listening to your journey and the anecdotes that you've got there, which are fantastic. I'm sure the audience listening in have got some some great ideas from you and some inspiration as well. So thank you very much for your time. Also like to thank Mel on the back end there at CMI for facilitating this. We hope to see everybody at another event shortly.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Catherine.
Perfect. So unfortunately, that is it for today's session. Thank you to everyone who joined us, and thank you, Dave and Catherine, for your insights and expertise. Don't forget, if you're a member of CMI, you can log into Management Direct using the link in the live chat, where you can find a wide range of exclusive and practical development resources and much more. If you're not yet a CMI member or subscriber, you can join our community via the link that's also in the live chat, where you can gain full access to our Management Direct portal. You can also sign up to the free CMI newsletter for the latest trends and tips for managers and leaders. Also, please do remember to take a few moments to let us know your thoughts on today's event by completing the evaluation form, which is also in the live chat. So thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.